New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are and whatever time you're listening. Welcome. And yes, I am Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. A little bit about me. I am a grief coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and I'm also a licensed soul collage facilitator. Welcoming you here to the program today to do what I am just called to do in life, and that is demystifying grief. Bringing grief out of the shadows and bringing it right into the light of our lives. And my reason for wanting to do that is because grief has a superpower, and that superpower is healing. And I just want to say that, let me just define grief and loss. Okay, so loss is defined by any expected or unexpected event that happens in your life that changes it. That your life can no longer be the way it was before. You can't go back to what was before. And that's loss. And oh yes, death is the greatest loss that we will ever suffer or ever encounter. That is the biggest. I call it the mother of all losses. So we give that its proper place. That's the first thing we normally think of when we think of grief. We think of that somebody's died. But that is not the truth. That is so far from the truth. Because we suffer losses. Oh, maybe you've had a geographical move. Maybe you've moved to another location. And that is that loss of that lifestyle, of the familiar, of the stores you used to go to, maybe the friends that you had, the activities that you did. That is a loss. And I refer to these as living losses, that no one died. It's a living loss, and you continue to live through it as well. And you know that divorce is really high up there on that scale of losses. Divorce, relationship, good friendships that have come to an end, a promotion. And we say promotion, it's like, yes, because you're no longer doing what you did before. And this is all new. And what you did in the past it's gone. Maybe old coworkers that you worked with are no longer in your life. And so looking at it that way, a promotion, a birth of a child could be the end of your singlehoodness and freedom that you've had in the past before. Even though there's joy that comes with it, there is that sense of loss and grief that has to be dealt with. And I don't want to say have to. It's good if you can look at those things, because then you are allowed to really enjoy where you are. Because grief is just one of those emotions that will not go away on its own. On its own, it needs attention. But let me get back to loss for a minute. As I said, those living losses that you go through that can really just put you in that deep state of grief. And then grief is defined by those emotions that you experience in light because of the loss. And those emotions, of course, the first one you think of is sadness and sadness. I don't want to say depression. Depression has its own life, but that deep sadness, that anger that comes up. So many people latch on to anger when they can't really access the part that's really sad and painful. It's easier. Grief is anger is one of those emotions that's easy to latch onto. And it's the other ones that can be really more of a challenge to really just stay with. And I want to say that when I talk about allowing yourself to grieve, what I mean by that is allowing yourself to lean into those uncomfortable feelings that we'd rather not have. I know myself, I am the same way. It's like, oh, I don't want to feel that right now. But know that if some emotion has come up, that we can use the word unpleasant. If an unpleasant emotions come up, it's coming up because now is the time that you can explore them and be with them and allow yourself to feel them. And I say if it's difficult with these unpleasant emotions, just lean into it maybe a few minutes each time that it comes up. Just a few minutes. And then make it a little bit longer. If it was 3 minutes yesterday, then 5 minutes today or 4 minutes today. But allow yourself to really lean into it, to really feel it, to really explore it. Because when we start to do that, the next question comes up is, what do I want? How do I want to feel? What can allow me to feel that way? That's how we start to slowly heal. And as I said, grief superpower is healing. Because when you're grieving, we're experiencing, we're allowing what is to come up. And that's how we heal. And I say, always, never, ever do grief alone. We can't, as Bell Hooks says, we can't heal in isolation. So get out there, get a friend. Get a friend, talk with a friend. If you don't have a friend that you can talk to about your grief, there's always support groups. Find a support group. If you're not a group person, then think about some one-on-one counseling or coaching. Just don't do it alone. Grief is not going to go away because you don't talk about it or you don't allow yourself to feel it or experience it. I'm sorry to say that's not how grief operates. Grief needs to be heard. Grief needs to be shared. And grief needs to be validated. So those are my three pillars, as I call it. Grief needs to be heard, shared, and validated. And when you can do those things, you will find yourself, I'm never going to say it's easy, but with this discussion and with this sharing, you can see that sense of really resilience and move through it more quickly, if you want to say that. Or not at such a deep intensity, but a lighter intensity that you can breathe, you can exhale and be in the moment of feeling that, yes, I can move through this. And yes, I am a survivor. And speaking of survivor, I'm going to ask Joe if our guest is in. Oh, just a little disclaimer before we get started. My guest has been having some really difficult or a challenge with her audio, and I'll just say with her Wi-Fi connection. We've lost her several times just in our free time coming on. So if our guest is there, Joe, if you can bring her on, that'll be great. And then I can read her bio if she's there. Oh, looks like she's circling. Oh, there she is. So welcome, June. I know we're having some audio challenges, and Wi-Fi challenges. And I was just informing the audience that'll be a little bit of a challenge. It may not even be a challenging show. I'm just going to put it out there that our beautiful guest is here, and she's here to stay. And today's theme of our show today is near-death experience. Near-death experience, how it can bring new insights into grieving. So with that, I have a beautiful guest, June Eguchi. And she's right here in Mexico, but she's from Seattle. She's right here in Mexico with me. And my beautiful June is a licensed massage therapist, which she has been for 26 years, and specializing in injury treatment massage. That's a good special. There's so many people. Yes, that's another part of life. June is also a second-degree Reiki practitioner. She was also a member of the Board of Massage Examiners for the state of Washington, a very official lady. And also June was on the board of Seattle's International Association for Near-Death Studies for a decade. And June had her near-death experience in 1973. But I'm going to allow June to speak to her near-death experience, but I just want to bring her in and say hi. And just to let you know, June and I figured out it's a long lag time. I'll ask a question, but it'll take a minute for us to hear her. So welcome, June.
Thank you, Bonnie.
There you are. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for your persistence. Thank you for your persistence. So I was leaving it up to you to talk to our guests about your near-death experience before we move into the theme as to how this can bring new insights for the griever.
Okay. As some of you may or may not know, death is explained as in loss of respiration and heartbeat. So when your body dies, you stop breathing, your heart stops operating, that's when you're dead. The near-death experience are those people who have crossed that bridge, and some of us, with my personal experience, which I'll get to in a minute, I did not completely die. My consciousness was trying to decide to stay or go. I was still breathing. I was in a hepatitis coma that I contracted through my younger brother, who was a heroin addict and living with me. And as I had gotten sick with the hepatitis, I had a restless night, and he and my ex-boyfriend, who were both heroin addicts, decided to inject me with heroin to help me out. That put me into a coma. And when I did not awaken the next day, of course, I was rushed to the hospital. And one hospital relayed that there was nothing that they knew, what to do with this phenomena. They would just let me lay there in a coma, keeping my body alive. So my parents had me transferred to University of Washington Hospital, where they said that they had an experimental drug that they're trying that may be able to help. Well, anything was worth letting, my parents just watch me dying in a coma. So in University Hospital, I was injected with this medication. And after that was after my 10th day, where the doctors advised that people most likely do have a lower chance of survival after 10 days being in a coma. So their suggestion was to make funeral plans for me, expecting me to die. Well, on the 10th day of my coma, I came to enough that I was able to know that I was in ICU. I just, my experience was that I was being drawn through a tunnel of faces beckoning me, you know, with their hands just saying, come, come. And so I was being drawn through the tunnel. And um, um, as soon as I was thinking, oh, wow, this is weird, I just drew back out of this tunnel and I opened my eyes, and I was in ICU at University of Washington Hospital. So that's where I regained my consciousness on day 10 of the coma. And after they brought me to my private room, I realized I was sleeping, of course, and hepatitis, you're very, very tired because you have cirrhosis of the liver has stopped functioning. So I was sleeping and I felt an ever so light brush to my face, which woke me up. And I opened my eyes, and there was a beautiful woman with glowing hair and flowing robes standing next to me. And she stroked my face again and said, "You're going to be just fine," and then dissipated. And about 20 years after that, I met a woman who is a psychic visionary artist who sees your spirit guides. And she meditated and was looking behind me, beyond my head. And she was drawing who she saw to be behind me. And that's where I saw that woman who was there for me coming out of the coma. So I now have a drawing of her. Her name is Amulyaf Ciel, and Amulyaf has been my lifetime guide. She's the one that's been with me my whole life. But I don't have visionary psychic abilities, so I've never been able to see her, other than through this drawing that this woman, and the one day that I saw her coming out of my coma. So Amulyaf has been in care of me, and I have recently, well, about 10 years ago, this was many years ago, I'm 72, this is 1923, this is in a long time ago when I had my NDE. It's been almost, I guess 50 or more years that I had my NDE, but you never forget the story.
Right.
And well, for some reason, our psyches don't forget, what we saw very vividly, and so we do firmly know that it wasn't made up. I didn't hallucinate it. I didn't forget it. I remember it vividly. And from being on the board of Seattle Ions for over a decade, every month we would bring in guests who would share their experience. We called it a sharers meeting. So a different person would come and share their meeting, their account of their NDE, their near-death experience. And so I've heard hundreds of people, and we all have really similar veins. Now, I did not die, so therefore I did not journey to the cosmos like the people who did die, and their spirits left their bodies and traveled through the cosmos. The most recent book that I highly recommend is by Dr. Eben, E-B-E-N, Alexander, who is a neurosurgeon and a neuroscientist who had an amazing NDE. And as a neuroscientist, he's able to bridge and explain the difference between what he actually saw and his experience while he was in a coma, very, very sick, versus what the science. Yes?
What's his first name, the author of the book? I was just writing it down. You said Eben? And what's his first
Eben,
name?
E-B-E-N. That's his first name, Eben, Eben, not
Oh,
Evan, but Eben.
okay. And
Eben is his first name, and Alexander is his second name.
Alexandra, thank you, thank you. Continue, continue. I'm so sorry to
Yes,
interrupt.
and I think his name is he's written several books, but the first one I think is Proof of Heaven, because his journey
Oh,
was amazing. He went to a beautiful place accompanied by a predeceased sister that he never met. And then he came back from that experience where he should have been brain dead by all accounts of his particular type of illness that caused him to have this experience. And as a scientist, you'll get a very clear view of the difference between spirit and science. He is
mhm.
no longer even a practicing surgeon. He is
Okay.
now doing speaking circuit of teaching people about life after life,
Wow.
which is a tremendous service to a lot of people. And in our near-death experience groups, we often have people that are in grief come to visit us. And the benefit of talking to we near-death experiencers, especially ones that did a journey of going to heaven and the cosmos, meeting Jesus, meeting Mohammed, meeting Buddha, because of course our experiences will relate very much to our spiritual teachings and
Yeah.
experiences. So, and that's why being part of an international group has been very beneficial, because I've heard, Buddhists, Jews, Muslims, people of different religions express
Mhm,
their near-death experiences, and they see Mohammed, Buddha, whoever our minds are trained to believe and see in, as
mhm.
their Messiah who comes to them.
Right.
And mainly the near-death experience, those of us that came back and had the full experience can attain to the fact that we go to a very, very beautiful place. We
Mhm,
fly through the cosmos, sometimes through the galaxies. We were met by Jesus, God, our relatives, whoever predeceased us, our dogs, cats, and they
mm,
welcome us to heaven. So all that happens is that we lose these bodies. Yes, the
yeah.
body dies. This human bodies die. We leave it here. It gets old. These bodies were not designed to be thousands of years old. Our souls, yes. So
They
that's
are
the
not
eternal part.
long-lasting. These bodies are not long lasting.
No, they're not. We only have a short warranty period. And
Yeah.
when it's over, it's over. So we have to leave these bodies. But our soul is a part that's eternal. That
Mm,
journeys to heaven, that meets with our maker. And the only thing in that I have heard from near-death experiencers is that we don't have a judgment day. We're not judged, but we do have a self-reflection period where we actually get to see our lives. That's when our lives flash before our eyes, and we get to experience and feel the things that we did nice for people, that how good we were able to allow people to feel, or how bad we made them feel by the bad things that we did to them. So we have a review day, and if any of
mm,
you have read Tuesdays with Maury, that's what that book is about, is your self-review day.
uh,
Tuesdays with Maury.
yes,
And
that's
that
a
is another great book.
yeah.
And because he kind of talks about that. He goes, you just get to experience and learn what you did well or not in this life, and the rest is up to you. And if you did come back and get to live your life again, now we have an opportunity to correct those things.
Yeah. So it's more of a
And for
review date, assessment date of what went down, what happened during this lifetime is what you're saying, is what I'm hearing.
correct. And then therein lies your karma. So if you do return here and live here, now you get to relive those karmas. And that becomes your karma on
Mm.
fixing those things.
Oh,
For
repairing.
those who
Repairing. Is that
repairing or learning and doing differently, and this new opportunity to live another life. For those of us that died, and never came back, we don't get to share those stories. But where they are is a most beautiful heavenly place where all the physical pains of illness and injury are not there because we don't have a body. The body's
Right.
gone. So our
Right.
spirit is free to be able to live and be healthy. And actually, I had a psychic talk to my mom, and mom told me, "Oh, I'm so happy. I'm just flying around being free because her cancer's gone. She doesn't have any of that stuff." And they do hear you. You can talk to them. They hear you. They see us, and they're very much there. And I've
Yeah,
been expressed by some death experiencers as your loved one. It's like they're on the other side of the wall. They just went to the other room.
yes,
So they
June.
said, keep talking to them. Keep talking to them. They're not gone. So
Right.
they're just in the other room. So talk to them through the wall, like they're there. So it has helped me with a lot of my grieving about losing my mother because I know she's not gone. I talk to her like she's here. Hey, Mom,
Yeah.
watch me now. I'm living my life. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm doing great. And they appreciate you talking to them, that you have not forgotten them, that they're still, that you're still in their thoughts. And they know
Right.
that. And for me, I can, after my mother died, I can't see, I've been in grief. I can't pick up the phone. I can't see her, but I do everything but see her as though she were here. I continue to talk to her. And it gives me great comfort to know that this is, how it is on the other side, and that they're
Right.
not truly gone, and those of us that are visual beings have a hard time conceiving that because we want to see them. And of
Mm-hmm.
course I want to see her and hug her,
We're in a
but the
physical
next best thing is talking to her. Yeah, it's a one-way conversation, but if you really listen, you can feel them.
Oh,
I
that is
feel
so.
her.
Mhm. That is so
And
true.
I remember using her money to buy my home in Mexico. I was a little freaked out. I kept praying and talking to her. Mom, what should I do? What should I do? I'm using your money to buy a house. Should I do this? Should I not do this? And when I felt a complete and total calm and
Mm-hmm.
peace to know that this was the right decision, this is what I should do, that's when I knew that mom is telling me it's okay. She's
Yeah.
telling me that, go ahead and buy the house, go ahead and do this, be comfortable.
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
so those are the times, those are the ways that you get your answers from your loved ones. They're not going to come in front of you and talk to you and say, yeah, blah, 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 this is the deal. You have to listen for the messages,
Mm.
and listen for the possible ways that they're trying to make contact with you, and to know that they're not completely gone. And
Yes.
they did not go to hell. Everybody basically goes to heaven. They just get to learn their lessons. And then if they do come back in reincarnation, then they come back to understand their lessons and to relive that aspect of their lives.
Mhm.
So, just don't be sad. It's okay.
Yeah. I was.
We grieve. I think what we tend to grieve as humans is our selfish needs to see our people. And when you overcome that and realize that, it's all that we're spirit, the material things don't matter, the material life doesn't matter. And as some so believe that this is an illusion, then look at the reality. The reality is the heavens.
Yes.
And
And I
that's
was
where loved ones go.
right, June. And I was going to say, you said you used the word selfish in our need to see our loved one. It's it's human. I want people to not feel bad. If you do want to see them, there are times that I want to see my loved ones that are gone. So if I'm selfish, well, I'm being selfish. I'll be with that. But I think the term I think that speaks to it is that there's a yearning. There's a yearning to be with that person that's gone. There's a yearning. And that is what do you want to say, a natural part of the human experience to yearn for something. And that's what causes so, and it's almost, what's the word? Almost an innate desire that we don't have control over when we have those moments of yearning. And I think your beautiful experience helps us put that into place to say, yes, I'm yearning to be with my father. And, listening to June's experience, I know that he's in a wonderful place. Oh, I'll say this quickly about near-death experience and talking about being in that beautiful place, that taking comfort in knowing that our loved one is in that place, is that when my father was dying, I was just so, oh my gosh, June, I was just so torn apart by the fact that he was going to die. He had cancer and it was terminal. It was just, maybe a few weeks to go. And I just remember sitting at his bedside, wanting him to know that I would miss him when he's gone. That anticipatory grief, knowing. And I just sat with him and I just said to him, I said, it was a very emotional conversation, but I said, I'm going to miss you so much when you're gone. And here's what he said to me, June. He looks at me and he just says, Bonnie, I don't want you to take my dying so hard. He says, I've been to the other side. I've seen the other side. And it's absolutely beautiful. And that's what you're saying. And he was saying it's absolutely beautiful. And that we'll all be together again in that place. So, June, it sounds like you are echoing exactly what my father said. And that's, June, it's been 40 years ago that my father died. And sometimes it feels like yesterday. And then sometimes it feels like another lifetime. And to
be able to let go of your loved ones and say, until we meet again.
Yes, June, thank you. That is a beautiful statement. Yes, yes, yes.
Because then it doesn't feel so final. It's not final.
Wow. But then
they're not
June,
gone.
Right. But then, June, we bring up the common issue in our society is that people are afraid of death. Because if you say, until we meet again, it's like, oh, you mean I'm going to die? Oh my gosh, I haven't come to terms with my own death and can't feel at peace. I feel that it's because we don't have any place to go to talk about death, to talk about our own deaths as well.
And it's a real fallacy and a problem in a Christian-based country. I used to sell life insurance, and I noticed that people practically throw me out of their house for even saying the D word.
Exactly. Oh my God.
So okay, does that mean that if you don't talk about death, it's never going to happen? You're going to be here 500 years from now? What the hell? And so we have been so programmed by the churches on the fear of heaven and death, heaven and hell, the fear of God, that when we switch our thinking to the love of God, to a God
okay,
would never do anything.
Let's give June a minute.
Harm us.
Yes, you've just blanked it.
I saw that. So if we can just switch our thinking to think that not everything that has been taught to us was correct.
Yes,
there's a whole different realm from what the churches have taught us, what the schools have taught us. There's a whole different thing going on out there that we don't know. And when you open your mind to quantum physics, which is the realm of where all this exists, then it discounts even science as we know it.
Yes.
So frankly, take what you have learned to date with a grain of salt and understand that there's another whole phenomena that we don't understand out there. And if you leave your mind open to that, you allow yourself to understand that, wow, there's another whole realm out there. There's another whole world out there.
Yes.
And to live in fear of a God who loves us eternally, to understand that statement, what eternal means. Now, where does death come into eternal?
Right.
And
Where does,
so we have to, yeah, it
yes.
doesn't even coincide with each other. So the term death has to be thought of differently. The thought
Yeah.
eternal, the word eternal has a whole different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to break down some of the things that we have been taught and understand that there's a whole different realm of the unknown that have not been taught to us that we have to be open to.
Right. June, I've got so many questions. So many questions. And I was going to say the first one, and then I'll go backwards in asking my questions, because your time in your coma was so interesting. I want to know more about that. But I want to say, with the near-death experience, why does the organization exist, and why does it have meetings? And maybe that's an oxymoron, but could you just explain why the meetings? Why the near-death experience meetings? Supporting each other, bringing in people, or what was the reason? What is the reason for near-death experience meetings?
It is a support group. It's an education group. We teach
Good.
people what near-death experience is, and then by bringing in the experiences of the people themselves that have had the near-death experience, now we're bringing in, we're teaching people to not fear death, and we bring a forum for the people in grief to understand, where did my loved one go? Where'd they go?
Right.
I mean, they just go away. We cremate or bury them, and then we don't see them again. Well, there's a lot more to spirit, which is internal, because we're all thinking in terms of the physical life or death. And so I
Yes.
think it's educational. It gives a forum for the hundreds of um, authors of these books. And a lot of people that have authored books on near-death experiences say that took them over 10 years to be able to bridge their life enough
Oh, mhm.
that they can even write about it, because people go through divorces, loss of
Oh,
jobs after their NDEs, because they can no longer relate to their prior partners. They can't relate to their jobs. A lot of us change churches or quit churches because we now know the difference in what's being taught in churches and what we learned and experienced ourselves. And so, our lives change drastically. And
yeah.
not everyone recovers totally. People are, if they've been physically damaged through accident or surgeries, they have a long recovery period of their physical bodies, which, by the way, brings me to another thought, that a lot of the people that have been in accidents, have had painful, deaths due to surgeries, are upset when they're revived. I've talked to medics and ER people that have been actually slapped
Yeah.
by their
Uh,
patients that they revived from a heart attack. Like, what you bring me back for? I was in a beautiful place. I wanted to stay there. Why
wow.
did you bring me back? Now I'm in great pain. Now I have to go through heart surgery. And now
Yes.
I have to recover from this horrible car accident. What you bring
Mhm.
me back for? You should have let me stay there. And
Wow.
that's why a lot of people do DNRs, do not resuscitate.
Hmm.
If you're already there and dead, just let it go. Let me go. Let me stay there. I don't
Hmm.
want to come back to an injured and painful body. I don't
You're
want
me.
to come back to any of this mess.
And, okay,
Just
well,
let
that,
me stay where it's lovely.
right. And that brings me to another question. And I like that, because how do these people work through that anger? But because we're like getting close to time, I want to ask you, about June. During those 10 days that you're in a coma, did you have any awareness, awareness of
Yeah.
being unconscious, or being in this comatose state? What was that? What was that like, June? If
Well,
you
I have
had,
always, I was in ICU, and because I was in a coma, I was on a respirator and bright lights. And somehow my consciousness about the wee hours in the morning, about graveyard shift at the hospital, I would gain enough consciousness that although I couldn't open my eyes, I could see the nurse turning on the bright light, so that she could see what she was doing to me. I could hear the respirator. I knew what that was. And so I would gain enough consciousness to try to wake up to say, what a weird dream. I'm hating this. Because there were
Oh,
several occasions I would hear the respirator, and I thought, this is a really strange dream, that I'm in a hospital. I wish I'd wake up. And it was a recurring dream because I would have this every few nights. I would be conscious enough that I knew where I was at. And I could hear this very sweet, nice nurse's voice saying, you're very, very sick. You're in the University of Washington Hospital, but you're going to be okay. And I would hear this several times, and much to my mother's chagrin, because she said she would spend all day there talking to me, I never heard her at all. Never knew my mom was there. So somehow between 2 and 6 a.m. was when my consciousness was alive enough that I knew that I was in a hospital, but I thought I was in a dream state. And that was
wow.
the only memory of anything during that coma that I can think of. And then, so when I woke up, I was not surprised. Yeah, I knew I was in a hospital. I heard it, but I did, before I leave the hospital, look up the nurse on the graveyard shift and thank her personally for her
Yeah.
voice that carried me through, and to let me know that I was going to be okay, because indeed I am now. The doctors could not explain, my attending physician could not explain whether it was that miracle drug that got me through this, or the fact that my future mother-in-law, my boyfriend's mother, who is a devout Pentecostal Lutheran, had her entire congregation praying for me. And the doctor said, when my parents and everybody thanked the doctor, he said, I can't take credit for this. We don't know.
Yes,
Or she
exactly.
could have died. It could have been the prayers, it could have been the drugs. We really don't know. And I really can't make claims that anything we did medically is what brought you back. We really don't know. You're just lucky. And maybe those prayers did work. Whatever it is, keep praying.
Right. And
That
June,
was what the doctor said.
yes, and I really want to ask you this one. How did your life shift after being in that comatose state? And how did your life shift being, so close to death, or having a death experience, and moving through that to come back to your body? Who knows that awareness of what was going on during those times that you were saying. There, you had those not lucid, but you felt like you were dreaming. So just how did
semi-lucid moments.
Yeah, semi-lucid.
Well,
yes, go ahead.
My type of experience is called a spiritually transformative experience, since it is not a full near-death experience, since I was close to death but didn't actually die. So what I had was a spiritually transformative experience. I was age 21, very much into sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the 70s. And but after I survived it, I put some thought to, oh my God, I was lucky to not die. I've given a second chance at life. So therefore, it sent me on a health quest, a spirit quest, and a time where I was able to, discover and learn about several different types of spiritual groups, and to actually decide where I wanted to be, and what the rest of my life was going to look like. And it's not surprising that I chose the healing profession of being a massage therapist. A lot of people come back with psychic abilities. We come back with abilities we didn't have before our experience, because we are downloaded with the experience to be able to help others. Because the main message that we all bring back from this experience, and from heaven and from God, if we saw him, her, or him, was that we were put here to help each other.
Oh,
that is a number one gist of our purpose on earth, is to help each other. That's why we're here. And
Okay.
so then how do we help each other? So people become psychics, physicians, healers, ministers, well, whatever, social workers, whatever helping profession that we choose to be able to help one another, because that was the message that we got. A lot of
Mm,
people that have had multiple near-death experiences get loaded with amazing information. And when I say loaded, they explain this as a downloading. There's no mouths moving, or we don't get scripture and we don't see
right.
this
Yeah.
information. It's like we're plugged into the source, and therefore the source just downloads this information on us that we wake up just knowing the stuff. It's a
Mm,
gift. And that's one of the gifts that we receive from being to the other side, is having this new information that's brought to us. And that
mhm.
then formulates how we're to use this information to help others, to help the world, to help each other.
Right. June, I'm a little taken back when you said that some people have multiple near death experiences.
Yeah, there's just many people that have had multiples. In fact, my friend in Seattle, Kim Clark Sharp, who is the president of NDE, she's also one of the first people, along with Gregory Moody, who wrote the books on near-death experiences. She and Greg Moody and another doctor are the ones that started the first international group about 40 years ago. She was just out of social work, and she at that time had already had 2 childhood NDEs and 1 adult NDE. So Kim Clark Sharp has died 3 times.
Wow.
And a lot of people have died multiple times.
But how do you explain that?
Well, we joke about it and say, well, maybe you were just too dense the first time to get it, so God had to kill you again to make sure you got the message this time. But
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it because it's not something that I had given thought to before. I, just read about people having a near-death experience, how their whole lives it's transformed and changed. And so I don't know how one that has multiple deaths would explain it. So that's why I ask.
Oh, yeah, some people have had childhood illnesses, and then they got in a car accident, and then they fell off a cliff, or had a boating accident and nearly drowned. Many people have had multiple near-death experiences.
I just
don't ask me why. I don't know.
Well, I just hear from the people that I have met who have had near-death experiences talk about how they're no longer afraid to die, that death is no longer a fear for them whatsoever. So that's why I thought, wow, if you got over that fear, having another one and another one, I guess that's just to affirm that there's nothing to fear around death. And I want to say, yes, and I want to say I thank you for sharing that. And also there's a new movement, not new, I think it's been around 10, 12 years or so, but it's called a Death Cafe. And both of us, I think, have attended Death Cafe here in Acapulco, Mexico. Me as a facilitator and June as a member. And just being able to have a place to come and talk about death is something that has been very helpful for so many people. So I was just going to offer for people, that's one way to start, listening to your beautiful experience, but checking out Death Cafe. I love their tagline, June. The tagline is, talking about death won't kill you.
That's great. And the International Association for Near-Death Studies is indeed an international association. In the United States, there's over 100 chapters in a major city. Wow. So if you're in or near a major city, look up IANS, International Association for Near-Death Studies, and you'll find a local chapter. They oftentimes have weekly or monthly meetings, and it's a support group, a listeners group, a sharers group. And, it's a great resource of talking to people who have actually had an experience, meeting them and hearing for yourself from these people what could have happened to your loved ones. And I hope that it helps a lot of people and their grieving process to know that they are indeed in a better place.
Yes, 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 June. I was going to say yes. They're in a better place, but us grievers back here are in that place of sadness and dealing with our grief and supporting each other through grief. And I just wanted to ask you though, is the International Near-Death Experience group open to anyone? The INDE groups
Yes,
open?
the public is open. They're drop-in meetings. And they usually are, have one or two sharers who share their personal experience of what happened when they die. And there's, hundreds of authors that come to these meetings that have authored their own books.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And June, I was just going to say now, with where you are in your life and being able to look back at that time, that of being, in a coma for 10 days. And I know you said afterwards you started doing healing work, but is there any take-home message that you would like the listener to take home from that experience for you at this time in your life? Where are you with that near-death experience?
And death is just another stage of living. And there's nothing to be feared. And we just have to be realistic to understand that, especially when you lose a loved one, if you're in grief, and especially if your loved one was in pain or illness, to know that they are indeed in a better place. And if I remind myself, and even the deaths that I've experienced here, because we live in a retirement community, there's a bunch of old people, so we are dying.
Yes,
but if and I hear myself saying to people, and sending my condolences, that they are in a better place. And if you understand how better that place really is, and that I'm just not saying it, that there are thousands, if not millions of people internationally, all over the world that have experienced near-death experiences, all of us can't be all that wrong. And we're all saying similar things. So how do you discount that? No science can't prove it, but this is where the area of quantum physics lies, and that there's a whole quantum area that can never be explained. We can't see it, touch it, measure it, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
exactly.
And we have to acknowledge that. And to know that, you're never alone. Your loved ones are always with you in your heart. Believe that, know that. And when you can know it to a point where you can feel them in your heart, then the loneliness is not there. They're with you all the time. You just can't see them. And us being physical beings, yeah, it sucks that you can't see them, but to know that they're in your heart, and especially our parents, because we're DNA genetically part of them anyway.
Yes.
So we have we are a part of them, so therefore they're a part of us physically. So they're with us physically. And when you know those things, it's of great comfort to me that we're never alone. And that's how we feel about God. There's nothing that proves that God is there. But we know it, we feel it in our hearts. That's how you overcome the loneliness, is to know. You just have to accept it and know that.
Yes.
And when you know that in your heart, there is no grief. What are we grieving?
Oh, I'm going to breathe that in. There is no, if we know that they are there, just in another form, or without form, that they're still there, but without the that taking comfort in that. I was going to say I lost a brother and sister in 2020, And my brother was my baby brother. My sister was my older sister. And I just remember, being at his bedside when he made his transition, and of course, crying in tears. But my birthday just happened to be a few months later. No, it was the following year, because he died on Valentine's Day, which someone said, "Oh, your brother died on a day where everybody is talking about love," and he died. He was surrounded in love. So the next year, my birthday comes along, and my phone was just acting crazy. And I finally turned my phone off because it was so crazy. And this was only 2 days before, no, the day before my birthday. And I finally turned my phone back on, and under the text pops up my brother's name and number. And it looked like I was sending him a message. And I thought, well, I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy that I'm going to be sending a text to a dead man. I mean, that is just not going to happen. So I turn it off, and then I turn it back on to see what text I was going to send. But it looks like it was queued up to play a song. And I thought, well, I don't remember doing that. And I thought, well, let me just push the button and see what song plays. You'll never guess. It was Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday.
That was his message.
Yeah, and that is what confirms exactly what you're saying. They're just in the other room. He was just in the other room. He knew I was having a birthday. And, June, I sat on the sofa and I just wept out of tears of joy. That's what it was. Tears of joy to know that, oh my gosh, even you're on the other side and you're still sending me love. You're sending me birthday wishes from the other side. So that's why I so resonate to what you're saying about our loved ones are not gone. They're not gone. And
there's a whole book out there. There's a whole book out there called Hello from Heaven.
Hello from Heaven?
Hello from Heaven by Bill Guggenheim of the Guggenheim Museum, ilk. But Hello, he has a compilation of stories from the other side.
Oh, I love stories. I guess June knows that I love that story so much.
And this is a compilation of post-death contact from the other side, and there's hundreds of accounts. So people. So it's explained. The post-death contacts could be auditory. We hear them. Oratory, olfactory. We could smell their perfumes. We hear them. They're speaking to us. Or they're little signs like birds and flowers and butterflies, whatever their favorite things was. So there's many, many ways that the dead do try to contact us from the other side.
Yes.
And if you're aware of the signals, then you pay attention. And it's very comforting to say, oh, there's Mom's favorite butterfly. She is coming to visit me. I know it's her.
So true.
So, I think there's a lot of ways that the deceased try to contact us to try to make us comfortable. And like your brother letting you know, hey, I'm still here, I'm here for you.
Exactly. Sending you much love.
Yeah. Sorry, I hope that really helps a lot of people in their grief to know that it's not final.
Yeah. And
there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, June, and I want to thank you because we're at time. I want to thank you for being so vulnerable to share your story and without the hesitation, but sharing your story in that, as you said, that we're here to help each other. And that's exactly what you're doing. And you've definitely helped me today to really lean into that and to listen more for those signs. And I think, June, I won't have any problem going forth with talking out loud to my brother, sister, and parents, speaking out loud, just like they're right here in the room with me. So I just thank you so much. And I just wanted to, Joe, if you could put up her email information, if someone would like to reach out to June for further questions. We'll have an email that will pop up here in just a minute. There you go, June's email.
Oh, that's Eguchi1. There's a numeral 1 after my name.
Oh yes, there's a 1 after the I. There's a 1 after the I. And
before the at.
Yeah, after the I. Yeah, and she's also on Facebook under June Eguchi. And if you can't reach her, reach out to me and I can get you in touch with her, since we have her missing a little bit of one of the letters. And also you can find me at yourdoulaforgrief.com. So I just thank you so much, Madam June. Continue spreading your beautiful message and helping so many people with your near-death experience. And I am Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. I'm a grief coach. Please reach out. Do not do grief alone. Thank you, June. See everybody next.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. You can hang on for a minute.